seeing many of you in your maroon. That's not a good start.
Don't judge me.
Rachel's right. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Queensland. And of course, the match is on tonight, and we wish Daly and the boys all the very best. And I'm quite sure Billy's done a great job in coaching the team. So we wish them all the very best, and of course Suncorp is the place to be, so I think we've got a hometown advantage. I can also confirm that the New South Wales Premier will be joining me for a drink prior to the match, and I know that Queensland's going to do their best tonight, so go Queensland. Now, we're here today, of course, to address a couple of issues. So first of all, we might talk about Vald here, and this is a great company. This is a clear example of our Advanced Queensland innovation working. Starting out with a few grants, they have now increased to 177 staff worldwide, and they have played a role in making sure that our team is fit tonight. They have worked with NRL teams, AFL teams, NBA, NFL teams, and of course the 20 English Premier League teams as well. So Laurie will give you a little overview of what the company is doing here. And of course, Australian Sports Innovation Week will be held at the end of August, early September, and we will be hosting the conference here in Queensland for the first time. So of course, being an Olympic state, we want to attract more sporting tech companies here to Queensland, and we'll be talking more about innovation and Advanced Queensland in the next couple of weeks. So I might hand over to the Minister to say a few words, and Laurie, and then we'll go on and talk about COVID and a couple of other issues. Okay?
Thanks, Premier. It's great to be here ahead of the Origin match tonight. I know that Billy and DCE and all the boys are really up to make sure that Queensland pride carries out onto the field, where we see 50,000 plus fans really enjoying and showing what the world's best rectangular stadium can put on, the show that they can put on there. So it'll be really exciting to see the Maroons in action tonight. But as the Premier said, the Maroons and indeed the Blues are all supported by the wonderful diagnostic tools that Vold have in partnership with all of the NRL clubs, and as we know, across a whole range of other clubs, not only in Australian sport but across the globe. Some 25 at least NBA clubs, NBA teams, the NFL, NBL in the US, all of the EPL teams, including Aston Villa and Leeds United, who will be playing against each other at Suncorp Stadium on Sunday, are supported by the tools that Vold have developed here in Brisbane. And that's just the beginning. We can then go on to look at the United States International Olympic Committee. They're supported. They use the products of Vold. The Australian Ballet. There are so many different athletes and high-performance teams that take advantage of Vold's capability globally, and wonderfully the work that Vold is doing to take that capability beyond high-performance sport, take it into the health, take it into military uses. All of those opportunities are part of the way in which this great local Queensland innovator is growing and doing wonderful work to not only grow their employment, but also grow their reach and the capability and innovations that they're bringing, the great products that they're bringing to the global stage, and doing it all from here at Newstead. It's a wonderful example of the way in which sports tech is really getting a great run here in Queensland. And on that green and gold runway through to 2032, 3,662 days until the opening ceremony at the Gabba, we see the way in which sports tech is really growing here in Queensland. We have a genuine ambition as a government to see Queensland become the Silicon Valley of sports tech. And that's not just about high-performance diagnostic tools like Vold has put onto the marketplace, but it's also across fan engagement, sports presentation, digital signage, wearable technology, a whole range of technologies that are very important and there's great demand for globally. We actually see that it's predicted that by 2026 the global sports tech industry will be worth $60 billion. It's vitally important as we see that continue to grow well beyond 2026 through to 2032 that Queensland stakes its claim to play a really great role in that. And that's why the Australian Sports Innovation Week, being held for the first time out of Victoria, being held here in Queensland, here in Brisbane, in August, September, will be a great kick-off to that. Wonderful to be able to announce that today and to see this as part of our green and gold runway through to 2032, while also celebrating that today is a pretty special and important day to Queensland sport as well. Go Maroons.
So firstly, thanks everyone coming down to Evolve HQ, and I certainly know, speaking on behalf of Sam, my best mate and co-founder, it's to think that when we were sitting around a dining room table starting Volt in 2015, that we would have the Honourable Premier come to our facility is just absolutely staggering, and I know that there's 110 people working behind in our main office there that are pretty pumped to maybe catch a glimpse of the Premier a little bit later on as she walks through. So we thank you for coming. And also thanks to Honourable Stirling Hinchliffe and Honourable Grace, our local member. So thank you for coming, and most importantly, thank you for supporting us, because certainly in the formative years as a startup, there's some lonely moments. You can obviously read books and listen to podcasts, but to have the support of the government, both financially and also by having the government badge, and say the government has provided us a grant or some funding when you go overseas, it certainly does help. So the government's not just there for the funding side, it certainly is the badge of honour, the Queensland Badge of Honour, to be able to go overseas. So we genuinely do appreciate that. And so, as has been mentioned on the day of the Queensland Decider, it'd be remiss of me to say, as a former rugby league player, I'm not extremely excited. It has been described by some as I was the best centre to never play in the NRL, so I'm glad someone laughed. They don't always laugh. So, but in all seriousness, it's an exciting time for Queensland. It's an exciting time for Vold at the moment. With the 2032 Olympics coming to Brisbane, obviously it's been given a lot of headlines, but it's a great opportunity to turn the southeast Queensland corridor into a bona fide tech hub, and I think we're well on the way to doing that, but I'm extremely excited to see what the government announces over the next coming weeks as to how we extend that. We've made a name for ourselves in elite sport. We've signed the world's best clubs, all the English Premier League, and the NRL, all the NRL teams, so hopefully tonight we do have an impact there. But I think the real role of our technology going forward is democratising access to healthcare and the types of technologies that we invented. So when we started, you needed $1 million lab, you needed multiple hours, you needed to be highly skilled to get the type of access to technology that we've invented. And what we've done now, and with the help of the team, is we've gone from $1 million labs that are really restricted only to research capabilities to a $50 a week product that any physio clinic can afford. So it doesn't matter whether you're trying to win Olympic golds, hopefully win a State of Origin tonight, or a grandmother wants to pick up her grandchild, or you're a tradie that hurt their back. We've completely democratised that, and it started in elite sport, but we're giving access to everybody. So that's probably the most exciting part of our journey, is to evolve from sports tech into the wider technology community. So it's really humbling for us to be a part of the Queensland innovation system. We're excited to see where the future is. We're excited to do all of the IP and all the development here in Queensland and export globally. So we thank you, and we look forward to being a part of the future.
Thank you, Laurie. And can I say, as a local member, it's fantastic to see this company. I first met Laurie and Sam when there were 2 people in this company, and now there are over 170 people, 60 worldwide and 110 right here in Newstead. They are bringing these services to the ordinary person, and anyone can come into this R&D section right here in Newstead, book in and be seen to if they have any ailments. Like I've got a bit of a funny knee at the moment, and I'll be coming in to see Laurie and his his team in relation to that as well. So with the assistance of government, the Advance Queensland, we've turned a meeting around a dining table between two people to a worldwide company, and it is so fantastic to see. You only have to stand here to marvel around the innovation that is around us, and it truly is a successful Queensland company that's taken the ball, and I hope the Maroons take it tonight and run it over the line many times, and go Maroons and go Queensland. They've taken the ball and really invented a company that is now on the world stage, and we couldn't be prouder as a government. I know the Premier is very proud that under the Advance Queensland we've got sports on the worldwide agenda right here in the heart of Newstead. A fantastic story, and congratulations to Laurie and Sam.
Any questions to Laurie? No, you can grab him afterwards. Okay, if I can just touch on COVID, please, for everyone. I know there's quite a bit of community concern out there at the moment, so I just want to reassure Queenslanders the best way that you can protect yourselves and your family is to go and get your booster. I went and got my booster last night, and I encourage everyone else to take this very seriously and to go and get your booster. And of course, if you're a senior out there in the community at the moment as well, to really think about wearing that mask when you're definitely in crowded areas or if you are in indoor settings. So the onus is on the individual, but we are monitoring what is happening in our hospitals very carefully. So this third wave is really testing our health system. We have 939 hospitalisations, including public and private admissions for COVID and influenza. This is approaching the previous peak that we saw in January. Today we have 756 COVID patients in public hospitals, 12 in ICU, 103 are in private hospitals, 2 in ICU, and 80 influenza patients in public hospitals, and 8 of those are in ICU. So people are ending up in ICU with this COVID and flu. It's like this double shock that is being felt across Queensland at the moment. Now, tragically too, there are 12 COVID deaths today, and 3 people have passed away from influenza. We have more than 2,300 staff that are currently not working due to illness. And of course, as you heard yesterday, we're expecting this peak in late July and early August. So as I said, the best thing you can do is to go and get that booster. It doesn't take long. You wait for 15 minutes after you've had it in the doctor's surgery, which I did last night, and it's really important to protect yourself, your family and your community. So please go and book in. I spoke to my doctor last night as well, and he said people are booking in, which is great to see, but please don't put it off, don't hesitate. We're in winter, and please take this action as quickly as possible. Yeah. The other thing I was just going to say too is if you are sick, stay at home. Do not go to work, because you could be spreading influenza or COVID to your work colleagues. So please think seriously. If you are sick, stay at home.
Do you have a number of new cases today?
New cases, there are 7,517 new cases, including 5,274 positive rats.
Do you?
Advise people to stay home. That's only if you're sick.
If you're sick, stay at home. You know, if you are a senior member of our community, you know, I would be wearing a mask. I've told my parents, and they've gone and had their boosters as well. Had them around for dinner last night, and I said to them, please make sure that you are wearing your mask when you go out into shopping centres, and they are doing that.
Do you have any concerns about Origin tonight with 50,000 people in that confined space?
No, because it's outdoors, so, you know,
It's not all outdoors, though.
Well, people should be, it's up to the individuals to take precautions. So, like again, I said, if you are an elderly or if you're a senior, you should be thinking about wearing a mask in crowded settings. Don't look at me like that. It wasn't pointed at all.
And I am.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
What are you going to say?
Are those hospitalisations peaking sooner than expected?
We always expected that the peak would be around winter. But what we could see is a further peak in September. So we are looking carefully at all of that. I know the Health Minister's having regular meetings. Look, I think it's going to get to the stage in the next 2 or 3 weeks we may have to have a National Cabinet meeting. So I've already put out there to the Prime Minister that it would be good for, I think, National Cabinet to get an update from the Chief Health Officer if these cases continue to do this upward trend that we're seeing.
There are a lot of aged care facilities here at the moment. Have you thought about asking for ADF help like previous way?
I will talk to the Commonwealth to see. It's a Commonwealth responsibility with the aged care, so it's really in their court. But of course we're concerned with COVID going around the community. So once again, that booster is really, really important.
What happens when the coral princess gets in on Friday? Will people have to test negative before they're allowed off?
I don't think there's any requirement to test before you get off, but the onus should be on the individual to double check. But of course, once again too, this is personal choice as to families choosing whether or not to go on cruise ships. There are very strict protocols on board, and the advice I have been given is that the people who have tested positive are not seriously unwell.
But if I'm a passenger now coming back from Brisbane and I'm sick and infected, I can go home with a mask on and isolate?
Well, my understanding is yes. If you are sick, you would go home and isolate. Yes, and maybe take a rat test just to double check. Yeah.
Mark Butler has said that Australia should consider working from home in this wave. So should Queenslanders be doing that, or do you think they should still go to the office?
Look, I haven't heard that. I'm happy to get some further advice from the Chief Health Officer on that particular issue. I think the key point here is if you are sick, you should stay at home. And if you are in that vulnerable category in terms of if you are compromised with, different health diseases. Yeah.
But with age today, as if you're well and relatively young, you can keep going about your business.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if you're a young person and you have, elderly grandparents, you might want to think about, your interaction with those elderly grandparents during this wave.
What would the trigger point be in aged care facilities? We've got 160 now with COVID outbreaks. What would be a trigger point for more measures to come in?
Well, I think that's for the Commonwealth, but we'll be monitoring that. I'm quite sure that the Chief Health Officer is getting that advice.
Minister Grace, do you have any evidence yet of absenteeism either with teachers and or students?
Yeah, teachers' absenteeism. I've met with my Director General both days, Monday, the first day after school, and yesterday on Tuesday morning, and we've seen nothing out of the ordinary, which is great news. We've had relief requests which have been, in the main, ordinary, a little bit higher, but nothing that we are concerned about. We're able to meet most of those requests, so there's been no increases in absenteeism so far with the start of the school on Monday. So that's great news, but we're monitoring it every single day, and I'll be catching up with them as soon as I get back to the office this morning.
Just on another issue, Scottsdale.
Yes.
Do you think it's appropriate that he remains here?
No, I don't, and we've made that very clear. I've been liaising with Racing Queensland now since September last year, where we have directed the board to stand Scottsdale down. They have challenged that direction. That's now under QCAT. We're awaiting a decision, but they've challenged that direction. I have been working with them and getting regular updates, and I do not think it's appropriate that he remains in that position. And I've made my views very well known, and Racing Queensland has issued a directive from September last year, and the board has challenged that, and we're currently awaiting a QCAT decision. The board of the Albion Park Harness Racing. At this stage, all I have is a power to direct Racing Queensland to direct the board, and that's exactly what they've done, and that's been done quite some time ago.
Just on another issue, the Victorian State Government has announced an incentive scheme to pay childcare workers who move regionally up to $50,000 in bonuses. Would Queensland ever look at a similar scheme to get workers out?
We're in the middle of bargaining negotiations. We've got a great deal at the moment. I believe the Queensland Teachers Union has got it out to ballot its members, and part of that does include a regional incentive. So I guess we're open to anything, and I know we've also had broad regional incentives for workers to come to Queensland and to work. So they are something, we need to monitor it, but it's included in the bargaining, and there'll be more news as soon as we know the outcome of that bargaining agreement with the Queensland Teachers Union that's out at the moment.
Premier, why won't your government commit to more social housing funding following the Audit Government's report?
Thank you, and that's a serious report that was handed down yesterday, and as Minister Enoch said, that the government's committed to implementing all of those recommendations. The spending is a record spend of $2.9 billion, and there'll be 7,400 additional social houses built by 2025.
It's not enough, though. The Auditor General found that even with that.
Yeah, there's pressures. I think everyone needs to understand too that there are pressures on housing across the country. Everybody is feeling this. We have large numbers of. We have a short supply of the private rental market at the moment. We've seen the issues of people moving into Queensland. They may be purchasing a house where a family is living, and all of a sudden that family has to go and find another rental property. This is not unusual. This is adding to our pressure. That's why the Deputy Premier has opened up more land supply. And I've been recently out to some of those new areas, including Yarrabilba, including places like Coomera, Ripley, where we are seeing the fast tracking of more housing estates for affordable housing. So this is a very complex issue, but it's one that we, of course, taking very seriously. You know, there's added pressures at the moment. We're building houses as quickly as we can, but we also have to compete with the private market that also is seeing a lot of pressures on builds as people are moving to Queensland, but also to young people are entering the market and buying and building new homes.
I mean, these are people that cannot wait for a place to be built. They have nowhere to sleep. They're sleeping in cars. They have nowhere to go. There's 30,000 people waiting for a home. That's expected to grow by another 15,000.
And the department has actually gone through and looked at that list, and it's actually reduced by 20% because some people have either left that list, so that list number is not actually accurate. You would have noticed that over in the budget we also announced a $16 million immediate housing response package. $16 million. I don't think that's anything to say is not taking this issue seriously, because I personally signed off on that letter. $16 million to support families who are experiencing homelessness or the risk of homelessness. There's also a $122 million investment to support those most at risk by funding the 87 organisations to deliver 176 specialist homelessness services in Queensland. These are pressures that are across the nation.
But what about Wellcamp? It's sitting virtually empty.
We are looking at all of those issues, but people sometimes don't want to move from their communities.
There are some people that would love to. They'd love the opportunity to go there.
Well, I'm happy to talk to those people. We're happy to get the Housing Minister to talk to those people because it is available.
That $16 million, though,
Yep.
was announced 2 days after the budget because you announced it in Parliament. So
Yes.
what was the new funding in the budget allocated to social housing?
But we've allocated $2.9 billion in the previous budget. As you would know, this budget was focused on health and the $9.7 billion in the capital infrastructure. Last budget, we announced the $2.9 billion in terms of the added social housing. And in June, we announced 1,200 new social and affordable homes developed through a commercial partnership with the Brisbane Housing Company. And I know that Minister Grace was actually also present for that in terms of the Build to Rent program. So we are working with the Brisbane Housing Company. We're working with developments to expand the land supply. It's unlocking that land supply to build more. But, you know, everybody is competing with the same people who are actually, you know, building homes for young people and families. There's an additional 7,600.
So you feel you're doing enough, even though this report said you could do more? You think you're doing enough?
Minister Enoch will be reporting to Cabinet as well on that report, but also to briefing Cabinet on all of the measures that are under.
But do you think you're doing enough?
Sorry?
Do you think
$2.9 billion is a lot, and the department will be also implementing those recommendations.
So 8,000 of these dwellings have at least 1 or 2 bedrooms spare in them at the moment of current dwellings. what do you plan to do to try and free those rooms up?
Well, that's a very good question, because I'll tell you what the LNP did. They wanted strangers to move in with families and elderly seniors. That was the LNP's plan. So what the recommendations are, and I've read that report, is that, and if you read the report you'll go through it and see it as well, is that what they're saying is the department needs to work more proactively with people who could transition to smaller social housing stock, and the most social housing stock we are building at the moment is a lot of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, to look at those seniors who are currently living in a 3-bedroom house, to free up those 3-bedroom houses for families.
I think this is the thing that you're not. I'm out there and I'm talking to people every single day. The degree of desperation.
No, I do understand it. Yes, I do know. I represent social housing. I represent a social housing community. Please do not say I do not understand this issue. That is incorrect and that is false.
What would you say to those Inala residents, though, who have been waiting for 2 years for social housing?
I would say that there is a stress on the system, and we're working with the organisations as much as we possibly can. We've got $2.9 billion, but these new social housing dwellings cannot be built overnight. It is going to take time. No, I've addressed your issue, Sam. Yeah.
On Labor's affirmative action policy, from this year, 45% of all candidates pre-selected into safe seats will have to be women. A lot of Labor held seats are now on margins above 5%. Does this mean we'll have to see men in the Labor caucus resign ahead of the next election to make way for more women?
I think our record on women in Parliament speaks for itself. It's a stark contrast to the LNP.
But the role from this year is it has to be 45%, so will there have to be men in the caucus resign to make way for more women?
I'll talk to those issues.
So, you're not recommending that people work from home. You're saying if you're sick, stay at home.
If you're sick, stay at home. That is my clear message.
But unlike Mark Bartley, you're not necessarily saying work from home regardless.
Well, I'll get advice from the Chief Health Officer. Our Chief Health Officer has not told me that advice. Okay, so at the moment, if you are sick, stay at home, but everyone else should be going about their normal business at the moment. We are monitoring the hospitalisations.
And what about National Cabinet? What exactly do you want National Cabinet?
Yeah, I just think I just think what we're seeing is an escalation, and I think what we need is a quick National Cabinet meeting, especially in the next couple of weeks or so, if these hospitalisations tend to increase, to get an extra briefing from AHPPC and the Chief Health Officer like we used to have. I'll get back to you. But our record is in stark contrast to the LNP.
And with Wellcamp, how soon could you open that up to people?
It's there. It's built.
So tomorrow?
No, it's not going to be tomorrow. We'll talk to the Deputy Premier.
And what about Origin?
Yep.
Do you think we can win without Cameron Monster tonight?
I think that we will have a great shot. I've spoken to Tex Daly, and he says tonight is going to be a great night. So go Queensland.
On social housing, there was a lot of social media posts yesterday, none of which featured the Auditor General's report. Why was that? By yourself.
Well, I've got to no, because the minister addressed it.
But why
The minister addressed it. I'm glad you're looking at my social media. That's fantastic. It's great to see that you're paying a lot of attention to my social media. Thank you.
You.